Welcome to the podcast Behind the Counter with your host, me, Heidi Blum, also known as the Food Czar. I was born and bred in Livingston, New Jersey, and I have seen firsthand over the past few years how food and the people behind the counter can bring a community together. We all have a story. We all have an appetite. Each episode will explore the thread between food, people, and community, and the stories that weave them all together. So let's get behind the counter and dig in. Here we go.
This is Behind the Counter.
Behind the counter.
With the Food Czar. Here's Heidi.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Counter with the Food Czar, which is me, Heidi Blum. And I believe this is the opening episode of season 2, if that's a thing. So we are here at Bonvini's Pizzeria, I think we call it. It used to be Bonvini's restaurant,
right.
way back in the day. And it is now Bonvini's Pizzeria. And I'm sitting here with Trish Bonvini, her married name side, but she's going to be the Bonvini historian for the day.
Right, the voice of Bonvini's.
The voice of reason and the voice of Bonvini's.
Yes.
Okay, so welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
No problem.
We've been talking about this for a long time.
Yes, we have been.
So, okay. Here's what I'm going to say about Bonvini's. I grew up in Livingston.
Right.
Bonvini's was a restaurant that was here. You're going to tell me when you think it was.
About the 1950 something.
Okay.
In the 50s.
I was not here in the 50s.
Right.
Or the 60s.
Neither was
maybe.
I.
Yeah.
I was in the 60s.
Probably a diner at Bonvini's restaurant in the 70s.
Okay.
But I remember it. I was telling Trish before we started this recording that I remember it like the back of my hand. It was one of the go-to restaurants in town. It was the most amazing pizza that was extremely special.
Thank you.
And Italian food, and it was really a place that you felt like you were walking into your grandmother's kitchen.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the best way to say it.
Which it exactly was, because it was my grandparents who started it. They had a bread bakery in Orange, and then they came to Livingston around about the 1950s. They started bread, and then my grandmother wanted to turn it into a pizzeria, and then the food came along with that, and then they started the restaurant part. So
Wait, that's very loaded what you just said. Okay, so they started a bakery
in Orange.
So was it your grandmother that was a cook, was a
Yes.
baker?
And my grandfather.
They were both bakers?
Both. Yes, bakers. Chefs in their day, not a chef that went to school for it, but
They came from Italy. They learned how to cook in Italy. They came over,
Yes.
started the bakery in Orange, and then said, we want to have a restaurant. We want to make pizzas.
Eventually, when they came up here, they continued with bread, and then my grandmother turned that into...
The restaurant was just bread?
Yes, at first. And then they turned that into, let's give them a little more. Let's do the pizza. So that was my grandmother's idea, that I know. And then they turned it into pizza. And then from that, they started to expand the menu. And then the restaurant part came afterwards. So it turned into, as you recall from your childhood, it had the takeout on one side and the restaurant on the other side.
So all the dishes, I'm assuming, were like old family recipes?
Most of them, in the very beginning. And then as you grow, anyone that's in the restaurant business knows that when you get too big, or when you grow so big, and back then, remember, there wasn't so many restaurants. There was only a handful to go to. You had to start to rely on, maybe we don't make the lasagna and we call it although they did make their homemade lasagna. I'm trying to think of what, like the ravioli, she didn't do homemade. The ravioli they got from, I think, Celeste, and it was delicious.
But they
Celeste, they had to keep up with the crowd that they had. I mean, I don't know if you recall, but like on Friday and Saturday nights, you could not get in, really.
I remember.
And so they wanted to keep up, but the pizza and the bread, that was always homemade.
So you closed Bonvini's, the restaurant, in, it must have been the 80s.
No, they closed, I got married in 99, 98-ish.
Oh, was that late?
Yeah.
So, and that, for people who live in town, is where Jerusalem is now.
Correct.
So recently, in the spring, was it the spring that you opened?
That we opened here?
Yeah.
Last November.
Last November? Oh my gosh, so it was a year.
Yeah.
Oh, look
Right
at
before
us. We're like hitting
Thanksgiving.
the anniversary.
Yeah, almost.
I didn't even
right-
know that. That's
yeah,
amazing.
Like 2 weeks before Thanksgiving.
The Food Czar has good timing.
Yes, you
Yes,
do.
thank you. Thank you very much. So, Bonvini's now opens as a pizzeria.
Right.
There's a lot of hype around the opening because in Livingston, there's a lot of people who grew up here,
Right,
who
who come
still
back.
live here.
Right.
They all come back, and they do come back for certain restaurants.
Yes.
For some reason,
Right.
They come back for a Sloppy Joe. They come back for
Right.
Nana's Tuna.
Right.
They come back now for Bonvini's Pizza.
Right.
I will tell you, biting into a piece of Bonvini's pizza now, one bite, and you are automatically transported back into my childhood.
Right.
And I can picture myself sitting in the restaurant
Right.
at the old location. And that to me says something. So clearly, whoever's making the pizzas now, you, your brother, and we're going to get into the family part of it,
Okay.
is staying true to your grandparents' roots.
Yes, absolutely.
And that to me is incredible.
Right.
Now, let's talk about the pizza for a second.
Okay.
Okay. It's super thin.
It
is
is.
super crunchy.
Yes.
To me, there's oregano in the sauce. There's some flavor that you don't find in other people's pizza sauce.
It is a little bit different. It is, and I mean, obviously I'm a little biased because it's my pizza, but it is definitely has a unique taste. Even though it has crunchy and there's crunchy out there, the sauce is a little bit different.
It
we
is.
do it a little different, but the process also makes it taste differently. So we do it a little different. We don't let our dough rise like most restaurants do, which is fine. It's just a different way of
It's Bonvini's way.
we flatten it, and then the way in which we make it, and then the end result has a little bit of a different taste than most pizzas that are out there. And I love all pizzas, so this isn't to say I don't like the other pizzas. It's just a little different.
We're being pizza politically correct. Yeah.
Exactly.
Say that 3 times fast.
Right.
Okay, let's break that down. The dough does not rise. So
No.
you make the dough. A lot of them put it away. It goes into like that ball
Right.
that proofs.
Which we do,
Okay.
but then we flatten it.
So after it's
Yeah.
proofed,
We
you
don't
then-
we don't let it continue to grow.
Oh, you stop it
Yeah, we stop it.
mid-process.
Right. More or less, yes.
Okay, and then I know I'm like I'm not a pizza maker. So okay, and then for the sauce, can you say what's in the sauce, or is it a family secret?
It's kind of a family recipe. There is a little bit different. We don't use sugar, so there's no. We don't want that sweet taste like you get in other places. And again, I do love all pizzas. I'm one of those pizza people. Like I could eat pizza all day long and everybody's pizza. But we don't like to put the sugar in because it takes away from any flavor of your cheese, your toppings. So we don't do that. We do add seasonings that enhance certain flavors.
And I'm sure a little bit of Bonvini love.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely,
of course.
a lot.
Now let's talk about the oven.
Okay. The oven's great. It's a mini version of I'll say the old restaurant, which is a rotating like a carousel.
Yeah.
Here, what do we have? 6 shelves here, huh?
Yes.
We have 6 shelves here. I want to say 8 or 12 were at the old restaurant, but it was a lot longer.
Yeah. In the back against the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. So my brother actually found it's just a mini replica of what we used, and that is also what contributes to the taste and how it cooks because it's rotating, so it's different degrees of the heat instead of just on a flat, not moving.
So it really gets.
So-
Is each as it goes down? Is it different temperatures?
The top is a little warmer than the bottom, hun?
Yes.
Yes. So
This is the top.
is,
Yeah. So when it gets to the top of the carousel.
Yeah, so, but we kind of keep it rotating and then,
Do many pizza places use? I don't
think so. I think they have the flat shelves. Or
So
they
how
have,
did he find the oven?
This is more of a baker's oven.
right.
It's actually more of a baker's oven.
A baker's oven.
And the
Right.
manufacturer of this oven sells ovens to like commercial bakeries that bake 100,000 bagels a day.
Oh wow! So like a bagel oven.
Not necessarily.
Bagels, but a baker. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
And just to backtrack, my grandfather, so my father's father, he learned, this is the most interesting part, I think. When he was growing up, and when he came and he was growing up in Orange.
What part of Italy did they come from?
My father's family's from Senigallia, so it's still central Italy, but it's the Adriatic side of Italy. So it's definitely influenced from the northern part. But he learned from a Jewish man, so growing up, all of our breads were braided. That's how my father did it. My grandfather did it. When Marchie makes homemade bread, now he'll do a loaf, but at Christmas we do the braid. And
Like a challah?
Yes, because my grandfather learned how he made challahs, and that's how he learned how to bake from this gentleman, and he then interpreted that into his Italian bakery.
So it was your grandparents'
Yes.
restaurant?
Yes.
And this is your grandparents on your father's side?
Yes.
So did your father work there?
My father, yes, always.
So-
My father left at 5 in the morning and probably got home at 1 in the morning.
When he was like out of high school?
Well, he had to drop out of high school. He had 5 siblings, so he was the oldest, so he had to help. It just, all our cultures did, the oldest would help, and then they would help raise
With the kids.
whole family.
Yeah.
That's the way it was. And so he did bread delivery with my grandfather. So he was working, and I had 2 other uncles and 3 aunts.
And they all worked there?
Yes. And my father and my uncle kind of ran it together. My aunts were there. One of my other uncles was there. So it was just a family business. And then my brothers were there from probably middle school, if I had to guess. Always worked there. That was their job. My sister waited tables. I started working there at 13, waited tables, answered phones. Again, we didn't have much of a choice. Like, this is what you're going to do, and we did, right? So, and my cousins in and out, who was waiting on tables, we didn't do delivery back then, because also, if you remember, not everybody delivered, and it was very different.
That was a big deal.
It was a big deal. The
Ones,
insurance, not everybody did that. Actually, it's funny because I don't know if you remember Roadrunner.
Yeah.
We started to use Roadrunner. They were like before their time, because they're kind of like DoorDash of today.
Yeah.
But anyway, at some point or another, all my cousins were a part of this.
I mean, that must have been so much fun.
It was a lot, because again, it was like busy, and it was who had this shift and who wanted to switch, because
And you didn't have cell phones. You didn't have cell phones to text each other and
you
say,
had to be there, you know. So it was a lot, but I learned I probably was one of the worst waitresses in the world if I had to think about it, but it gives you're dealing with hungry people, and that's a lot. They come in, they want to be served, and I get it. I go out to dinner, and you want something, you want it immediately, but I was 13, 14 years old, and it's hard work.
So what happens when the restaurant closed? What was
They were starting their families, very young kids, and it's tough. So I think they needed to take a break. And I think that's also part of why we opened now. I feel like, maybe this is just my opinion, but like there was unfinished business. I don't,
There was no closure at the time.
No closure. And I was blown away the first 2 months here of the stories, and we knew it, but it kind of, like how you said you took a bite of the pizza and your childhood came right back. People were coming in. They got engaged in my restaurant. They had their rehearsal dinner. Because back then nothing was too fancy, right?
Yeah.
Birthday parties galore. Everybody that has stepped foot. Last November and December, I had my 8th birthday party there. I had my 12th birthday party there, and the stories and some people coming in knowing my grandparents and then telling me stories, which is amazing, or my dad or my uncles. It just brings you back to your childhood, and I think it's more of an homage to my parents. They gave their everything to us and that business, and and how it was built. And I think we wanted to kind of continue that and complement the town, not necessarily take away from any other pizzeria, because it's a little different. We have a little bit of different history, and it's our roots. It's where we're all still here except for my sister. We all raised our families here.
What about your kids and your brother's kids? Did they take an interest in learning?
So we thought that they would.
It's a different generation.
It's a very different generation. As I said to Chuck, who is not from the restaurant business, and this is not to put down anybody else's work and what they do, but there is a difference between working hard and hard work. And this is really hard work. You are on your feet. It is, I don't even know how to explain it, and it's nonstop. And there is always something to do or make or prepare or cook, or and then you get to do it all over the next day. So it's a lot.
So that's interesting. So when, whose idea was it to lease the space and give this a go?
Probably a combination of my brother and Chuck, and I had a little input in it. I thought maybe one of the kids, and I'm not giving up on them, and if they go their separate ways, that's great. They need to do what makes them happy. But being the youngest, I was always like, yeah, never, I'm going to do this. And I do something else. I have a different business that I do during the week. But now as an adult, I'm like, it would have been so cool. Like, I should have, you always second guess.
Of course.
So my kids in particular are the youngest ones, so I don't know what, they're still in college, so who knows. And the older ones, you never know. You never know what path it goes down, so it's here. In the meantime, there's a lot of opportunity. We have a couple of unbelievable workers here that we adore, and we'll see what happens. We'll see.
So your brother says, I want to do this. Chuck, your husband, says, count me in. And do you go through how much work it's going to cost, how much work it's going to take, how much it's going to affect your life as you knew it?
Well, I had been retired for a year and a half.
Talking to the mic, please,
I had
sir.
been retired for a year and a half, so I was used to getting up early and coming home late and the whole deal. This is a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah.
And Marchie is very much of a laissez-faire, go figure it out on your own type of guy, and I'm like,
It'll be fine. We'll wing it. Yeah.
But seeing the interest or demand to his quote-unquote pizza club, we just felt it would be a decent business opportunity. You don't want to be so arrogant to go, oh yeah, it's just, everyone's just going to come.
Yeah.
But I think I certainly saw an opportunity, and I will tell you, as a Long Island guy, the community supports this place, and the love they have for this place it has to be unmatched.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It really is amazing. I mean, there are people who come here 6 times a week.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and wax about things are amazing and we're just killing it.
It's not about that.
But it really isn't about that. And much to Marchie's credit, the hardest thing I think about doing this, the phrase would be chasing a ghost, because he's making pizza that everybody remembers they had when they were 11.
And that's a hard thing.
And it was the greatest.
Yeah.
And
your
it's
memories sometimes.
Right. And what you remember isn't always what
Correct.
is.
Yeah, you're like, not so.
Right. It was kind of a fear.
So now that you're about to celebrate your 1-year anniversary, how do you feel today, where everything is?
It's a very solid business with a very solid customer base, and it seems as though each day we're getting a little more momentum. It's not a tidal wave.
Yeah.
But, we see the reviews on DoorDash and Google, and pizza joints and everything else.
Right. It's amazing when people, new customers as well as old customers, and then the new customers like to hear about the story, which is great. So you give them a little story here and there, or they knew somebody that always went to Bonvini's, and it's nice talking about it. I think they enjoy it, and I know when I'm here, which is normally just on the weekends, I love talking about it because it's my family, and
It's got to warm your heart.
Yes.
I mean, it's,
Yes.
it is a heartwarming story.
Yes.
I think for the town, for the family,
Right.
For old Livingston
Yeah,
people. Like,
of course.
I mean, to me, I love this stuff.
Right.
Okay, so 1 year in,
Yes.
what's the goal for the next year?
The goal for the next year is to keep the employees happy,
Yeah.
keep the customers happy, pray the customers keep coming in, and
continue it.
Just to keep it going.
Yeah, keep
Just
it
to
going. And the other nice thing that I will say, and I know all restaurants are doing this in town and the surrounding towns, but the give backs, like this Wednesday we're doing a cycle for survival for Ellen's Army. At the end of the month, it's for Annie Eisner. And again, I know all restaurants do this, but we happen to, unfortunately, but fortunately, we love that. We love when the schools come and ask us. It's not to make the money, it's to get the more of the Bonvini name again out there. And it's just really nice to help and do that at the same time.
And be part of a community.
And be part of the community.
And,
right.
There's something so nice about that. It's why I do what I do.
Right.
Right? This is volunteer for me.
Right.
The podcast, my videos,
Right.
and it feels good.
It does. It really does.
Because it fills my heart, and I see how it makes other people smile for even a minute.
Yes.
And to me, that's...
Yes, it's a lot about that.
That goes a very long way.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's look, every community has their good and their bad, but for the most part, this community, when they need to pull together, they pull together. And I mean, look, I was born and raised here. I left for 5 years, and I'm back. And we have a business here. Like, I'm not going anywhere. It's Livingston has just got that special thing
feeling.
Going on.
I don't know what it is. It's some vibe. It's something in the water.
But it really does, and we love that Bonvini's is a part of that.
So if you could talk to your parents and grandparents, what would you say to them where you are today?
Well, my father would be shocked. Because they used to have to call me on Saturday at 4, go, hello, you're supposed to be here.
Are you coming in? Yeah.
And wake up. I think it's, you know what? It's more of for me, I've never seen anybody in my life work as hard as my family did. They were there morning, noon, and night. I mean, they used to take naps in chairs. And I wish young people just had a glimpse of that, because life is so different now.
Yeah.
And they work differently. And that's just the way it goes. But I would say to them, I would thank them, because it's... I don't know. It's fulfilling, right? It's satisfying, and
you're carrying on. I'll say it for
right,
you. You're carrying on a legacy,
right? And
in such a respectful way,
right?
And to me, if I could talk to your parents and grandparents, I think I would tell them they should be so proud,
right?
What's incredible? The kids are doing everything the exact same way. It's not like we're going to make it better. They're just like, we're doing it the same way.
Right, like they want to learn.
So when Marchie weighs out the dough, it's on the same scale. It's the same presser. When he buys meatballs, he has, like in his father's handwriting, the ratio of what to what. It's not a calculation.
And none of them say this is a better way of doing it.
They say this is the way.
This is the
Bonvini's way.
Right.
That's amazing.
Same pizza sauce.
Yeah.
Same cheese. Same amount of everything into the sauce. Same amount of everything. It's the same. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say to you, thank you for coming back, because it makes me feel good.
Right. Thank you.
And if you haven't tried Bonvini's, I'm telling you, it's a run, don't walker.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you think?
I think so.
It's a run, don't walk. Listen, congratulations on the year anniversary. Congratulations on continuing an amazing legacy.
Thank you.
Congratulations on doing your family proud.
Thank you.
Bonvini's forever.
Thank you.
And many, many, many more years.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
I appreciate
anytime.
it. And now we get to break bread.
Now we get to bake bread.
You got it. Can't wait. I'll see you soon. Okay. No, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you are hearing this message, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I'm truly grateful for you and this opportunity. The purpose of the Behind the Counter podcast is to bring food, people, and community together. I hope you'll return for more episodes and explore with me. I want to personally thank Fran Linnell of Design 68 for my amazing Behind the Counter podcast logo, and Travis Lohenberg for my awesome Behind the Counter music, and all the guests that take their time to sit and talk with me. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you hear your podcasts. If you'd like to support the Behind the Counter podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends and family, and you can follow me on Instagram at Heidi Blum. If you have any feedback or stories that you want to share, you can email me at foodsarbtc@gmail.com.